Share your goals with Prairie Creek Seed, and they will take the time to visit with you, discussing options that will help your operation succeed. Find them at prairiecreekseed.com or on Facebook. I'd also like to thank our Level A sponsors and our Level B sponsors for making 60 virtual events possible this season. And guess what? You can attend all of them free of charge. So thank you, sponsors. Practical Farmers of Iowa is a community of over 4,000 members committed to building resilient farms and communities. We are a farmer-led nonprofit based out of Ames. We specialize in farmer-to-farmer knowledge sharing and farmer-led research. Learn more about us and access our vast collection of resources at practicalfarmers.org.
Put it in your pocket.
This virtual field day runs until 12:45. If you have questions during the field day for Seth, please type them in the comment box on Facebook and we'll relay your questions to Seth. Also, at the conclusion of this event, please give us your feedback via the online survey, which we'll chat in the comment box. Virtual events are new to us, and with your feedback and help, we are excited to learn and improve throughout the summer. All right, let's get to it. Seth, we're going to you live in the field.
Thanks, Megan. I'm Seth Smith. This is my dad, Lynn. We farm together in Nemaha and Sac County, so we're just north of Highway 20. We've got a diversified operation, cow herd, feedlot, chemical crops, and organic crops as well. We graze a lot of our feed comes from grazing. We're trying to get to, ideally, I'd be 100% of that. But we try and maximize number of days that we don't feed cows with a feed wagon. And interseeding has been one of our major tools on our path to getting there. We're standing out here in the field today. This is the video is entitled Early Interseeding, which you can see in this corn. It's not too early right now. Luckily, we can still get through this field today and show a video of putting some on. And we've got quite a few pictures and videos of interseeded crops in the past and in this season.
Fantastic, Seth. We will now show the first video series. Okay,
so this video that we're playing here, this is perennial ryegrass that was seeded with the interseeder, but in the fall. And then that is corn planted in between, like right there where you can see we plant the corn in between where the rye, we can control where the rye goes. This picture right here is right after corn silage harvest on interseeded annual rye and some brassicas. This is what it usually looks like after silage harvest, and then it pretty well explodes with growth once you take that crop off. The annual rye grows extremely, we've had very good luck with annual rye and with a lot of the brassicas. One of our biggest troubles, as you can see right there, is the tracks. This was actually the last two falls looked identical to this. That's truck tracks or chopper tracks, you know, from taking the silage out because it was so wet. And that there's going to be pictures later of this same field. This is early September. You know, it looks pretty spindly, pretty little, looks like not much. In the tire tracks, it wipes it out for the most part. Sometimes you get about a fourth of it to come when the tracks are that wet. But it looks pretty disheartening at this point in time, like there's just not much there. But like I said, once the crop comes off, it's amazing how fast all that will take off and grow. So this is that field 30 days later. And you can see the brassicas are huge. The annual ryegrass is about 8 inches tall. There's a lot of feed out there. And this was 2019's one of the fields. And we were extremely wet, which annual rye likes wet. The brassicas seem to do well in the wet. The cowpeas did not do so well in this mix. This was interseeded, but blown on top of the ground because by the time we got it put on, it was late. and we couldn't, the corn was too tall. We had to carry the bar, so we weren't breaking corn off. So this was just blown on top of the ground. And it, you know, it rained in 2019, as everybody remembers.
Seth, we had a question in the comment box. You mean annual ryegrass, not cereal rye, correct?
The first picture that was showed is cereal rye. It was tall with the short little corn. That is cereal rye. The rest of all these pictures are annual rye. That was interseeded in season in June is annual ryegrass.
Thank you. I'm now going to pull up the photos for you to talk through.
Okay.
They're
okay, so this is that same field. Said the picture shows October 13th. This was chopped about September 12th or so. And we got more growth after that. We had a pretty hard frost shortly after that, and it killed some of the brassicas, but the annual rye continued to grow. And we did not graze that until it was the end of October, when maybe 20th, 25th of October, when we turned cows in there. But that field, now I didn't look it up, how many grazing days we got off of that, but it was about a 3 to 4 times return on the seed and the application cost. And then plus you have all the soil health benefits for free.
I'll go to the next slide.
So this is some of the brassicas. This was pretty average sizes of what we found out there. This is the day, you can see in the leaves, they're kind of wrinkled. That's the day, that day it froze, the morning after. And the cows went crazy over those radishes and turnips. They fleshened unbelievable. I mean, we pulled them off pasture, which, you know, it was a wet season, but they piled weight on like I have never seen grazing when we have interseeded covers out there. We almost needed to rotate things around, because we got to a point at one time where we were afraid we were getting too much, you know, we were wasting covers. Basically, we were getting the cows so darn fleshy. And then this is just a close up. So that's the silage stalk height. This is that same field, I believe. And so that's, you know, they're 8 to 10, maybe a little taller than that. And the leaf material on top, you know, looks like quite a bit. Of course, they eat it all, but the root is what, you know, the tuber is where the real benefit is at. And they pluck them out of the ground. Like, I don't know that, I mean, you find one occasionally that they stepped on and mashed into the ground. Otherwise, they ate every single one of them. And that left extremely, extremely nice conditions in the spring to plant into. Now this picture is in a different field that we interseeded. This was combined, but this is an organic field. And this is one other huge benefit of these, is that anywhere where we turn around and you knock down corn, cultivating and stuff, those covers go crazy and they flourish in there where they get direct sunlight all summer. So instead of foxtail and buttonweeds or anything like that, water hemp, the leaves of those brassicas shade out everything in very short order. And so we had, you know, you have little patches like that, or the occasional cultivator blight or anything like that. You have a patch that looks like that. So in the organic world, is hugely beneficial because you avoid a weed patch. This is annual ryegrass, crimson clover, and probably rapeseed, I'm pretty sure. In corn, it's high moisture corn. This is corn we're going to combine for high moisture. So this was seeded in mid-June with the cultivator. And then when we combine this corn, I think that's the next picture. Yeah, this is after it was combined about 3 weeks, and my hand's touching the ground. So I mean, it's, you know, wrist height and bent over. So it went from a tiny little bit of forage to quite a bit. This is in combined corn also. That's cowpeas. The one that looks like a soybean is cowpeas, I'm pretty sure. some clover, some vetch, and the ryegrass is in there. There's a lot of it is covered with stalks, especially after you combine it. It doesn't, you know, the chaff covers some of that up. It does seem to come better with corn silage than it does even high moisture corn combined at the same time, just because you have no shading when you take the silage off, and when you combine it, you do have the trash, the fodder, but we get still definitely enough growth to be worthwhile.
Seth, someone asked, what is your corn planting population?
We'll preface that we're in 38-inch rows. We plant about 33 to 34,000 population. And so that's something we have learned. 112 day, 115 day corn, which is the max of what we plant here or at least on this farm. The corn that makes really good silage makes really good shade. So it is hard to get an interseeded cover crop in there unless you chop silage. If you take silage off, it works great. But if you leave that and combine it as 18% corn, it's too late and you don't get enough sun. You don't get enough long days on that crop. Those days in September are worth a fortune. They're just worth a fortune. So if we do a lot of high moisture corn for the feedlot. So a lot of our crop gets harvested in September. And so the sooner you can take the crop off, the better it is. If you can find a straighter leaf corn, that is helpful too. I've been pretty leery to change. We seem to have our best yields in full season corn. So we've tried a little bit of real short season corn, but I don't want to take a yield hit to achieve my cover. So what we've been focusing on is making sure we get it on where we chop silage and where we're going to combine the first high moisture corn. And then we keep experimenting with it in different, places too. And some years it's just better than others. We've done this, I think, 5 years. We have been toying, 5 or 6 that we've messed with this. And even in a dry year, sometimes it looks like there's just nothing there. But if you get a little rain in September and October, it's amazing what will show up.
Seth, can you talk a bit about your cover crop seeding rates?
Yeah, like what we're seeding most of these, we seed a multi-species mix because we learned real quick that, and people had told me this, that make sure you seed plenty, because if you have a crop failure and you have 9 varieties, you're probably not going to lose all 9 of them. So this stuff that we're interseeding, you can get down to, I believe we're seeding like 30 pounds an acre of this mix. And that's what's in this picture. I don't know, I'm looking at this on my phone, but that's the same field, the 2 pictures side by side, with the standing corn and the harvested corn. And in the standing corn, it looks pretty thick, and in the harvested corn, it looks a lot thinner, but nonetheless, it's obviously the same amount. But when we turn cows out to graze that, on something that looks just like that photograph, that does not look like a ton of forage out there, because I'm saying specifically like 1 ton, because it's not. But when we used to run straight stalk, just stalks and pull the cows off and have to feed, versus having like what's in this picture, that'll almost double our grazing days on stalks and keep the cows in phenomenal condition. This picture is corn silage a couple years ago. Also the same thing, interseeded in the summer. This is, first you can see the chopper, so it's right afterwards. That season, that stuff was quite, I think that was 17 or 18, but that was taller, and it also got pretty tall. But that corn, I can't remember the chopping date. The corn looks pretty green. That might have been, I assume it was early September, like always. But some years it looks like that, and we thought, oh great, we got this figured out. And the next year it's all spindly, but it's as long as it's there and it's alive, it'll be worth it, as long as it makes it to when you pull the crop or your cash crop off.
Seth, and this is the last slide.
Okay, so this picture, this is a take-home point for us. The one on the left is the same one from 2008, 19, I guess. So that was interseeded. These pictures are taken the same day, and this other was drilled. This is in another field of silage right across the road. So that's as big as it got being drilled because it froze October 13th. So that was the end of that. And the one on the left was interseeded in June. Same seed. Actually, we used a heavier rate when we broadcast drilled it after silage. So, you know, the one on the right, you'd pretty much call a waste of time, kind of a failure, I guess. You know, you didn't get enough to graze. You didn't get enough for me to do any soil health good. And on the left, we're starting to change soil there and feed cows. So that's what motivates me to get them in early.
Awesome, Seth. Thanks. So now we're going to go live to you in the field to show us your equipment setup.
On.
Yep.
Okay, so this is, we use this box, this seed box, no matter what implement we're pulling it with. It's a Henniker air seeder. It was set up originally, I mean, they're built for soybean planting. I like it a lot because if you come up here, we just hook it to whatever implement that we're using. So right now we're using a cultivator. This is an organic cornfield. Obviously in an organic cornfield, you're cultivating to kill weeds. So we put the cover crop on with the cultivator. The pipes, we put 2 pipes to each row, blasted on in front of the shanks. And we experimented a little bit. And we're gonna do some more right now actually, or later today, that we're gonna move some of them back. Part of what the problem with the seed mix is the annual rye needs to be shallow, but the cowpeas are a lot better if they're deeper. And if you put it all in too deep, you end up with one or the other. Or you put it all too shallow, you end up with a lot of annual rye, but not much for cowpeas. This box is able that we could put a divider in it and split it in half. So the thought I've had too is split in half and mixing my seed myself so that I could put my shallow seeded crops in one side, blow them on behind the shovels, and the ones I want planted deeper, blow them on in the front. But I haven't got to that. I haven't got it done yet. So for now, that's the way we're doing it. But this machine, it's cheap, it's easy, it's hydraulic driven. So it's ground driven for the seed meters. I'm gonna come around and show those in the front. The seed meters are ground driven. It's just an electric clutch that you turn on from the cab. And then it's one outlet to run the hydraulic fan that blows the seed out. That tank will hold about 150-ish acres of seed. So it's not like you're stopping and filling all the time. And all these hoses, when I want to switch to a different machine, they're just stuck into a piece of square tube. So you pull them out, pull the pin, and I can switch to a different interseeding machine. Like if I'm no-till on my no-till conventional ground where we're not running a cultivator like this, we've got one set up with drill units and we'll blow the seed on with it. So it gives us a lot of versatility and it holds quite a bit of seed. And you know, we're not making a special pass, so it's not so hard to do the job because you're already out there anyway.
All right, Seth, we'll cut to the videos of interseeding, and then after that, we'll do a live demo.
Okay, so this is this same cultivator. This is last year. Last year, some of our organic corn got planted pretty late. That was why that picture, that was in July. Now this is our interseeder we use with a drill units on it. We're wide dropping nitrogen onto that corn and then drilling 2 rows of cover crop in between that corn. And some of those pictures that we showed is that particular field, you know, in the fall. So it's a high speed machine. It's a low maintenance machine. It's cheap. It's pretty low tech. You know, the tractor and the GPS system isn't, but this is. So it's pretty simple to keep running and going along. These are those Henniker units that were soybean drill units. We just slid them on a toolbar to fit in between our rows. So we're planting 2 rows in between. And then there's drag hoses putting nitrogen on right along the row. That machine worked pretty good, but those drill units are not very heavy duty. they do not, they're single disc opener, and they were pretty well shot when I got them. You know, they get the seed on the ground, but if you want to plant it an inch deep, they're not the greatest thing. If the ground's really wet and soft, they do pretty good. So we're going to play around this summer with switching that toolbar to units off of some kind of corn planter, just so we have actual disc openers. Use this same air delivery system, but have a better opening system for drilling our rye in the fall, and also for our no-tilled interseeding.
Hey, Seth, we're back to you in the field. So Etta, if you could back up and film him. And then we do have a question. Seth, how do you choose the timing for interseeding?
As soon as you can do it. We struggled on the sooner the better. You can't do it too early. We found that out. We've tried some. Our early trials with this were just with a 3-point whirly seeder, which actually works good too. It's just another pass. And we would go out and spin the seed on and then cultivate it to work it in. And then one time we spun some on and it rained, and we got like half the field cultivated. Well, then it was probably a week of wet. The field was pretty darn clean, so we just left it, and we had a beautiful stand of cover in there from that. So then we just, learned, well, if rain is your friend, then you don't hardly have to get it very deep in soft soil, but if it's dry, you have to. And of course, you never know if it's going to rain or not. So, but the answer is you can't do it hardly too early. The main thing that we've run into is where we've planted some and thought we had our weeds under control, and then ended up with like a flush of water hemp and had to spray it. So making sure that you jive with your chemical program, or on the organic that you've got your, like we try and do it immediately after we flame weed, which is, as soon as we possibly can when the corn's, this tall. Ideally, I like to do that and then run this cultivator and put the cover crop on with it on my lay-by pass, like, earlier than today, earlier when the corn's 8-10 inches shorter than this, ideally.
Seth, have you tried interseeding into corn that's planted in 30-inch rows?
I don't have any 30-inch rows. I've seen it a lot because that's obviously what most people are. So I've seen good success. Guys have good success with it. You can get by seeding it a little later in 38 just because there's generally more sunlight coming through. So a 30-inch row, doing it a little earlier is probably even more critical.
Okay, Seth, why don't we look at this live demo of interseeding while you talk over it? And if anyone has any more questions, chat them and we'll get them to Seth.
Okay. It's pretty loud with the vac running, but I don't know if we'll be able to see the seed coming out the tubes as he takes off, but you can't hardly see it coming out. It's that small fine seed, but it's there hitting the ground. If you look at the ground, I think you can see it up ahead of the unit. I don't know if you can see the seeds hitting the ground right in front of the shovel.
It's hard to see it, but we get, you're explaining it well.
So anyway, I mean, aside from that, it's just a cultivator. I mean, it's a pretty simple system, just blasting it on in front. The main thing we learned about it is make sure you run the air pretty high, because that light fluffy seed will tend to sit in those longer tubes out to the end, just kind of like an old cyclo air planter. The end rows never got near as planted as efficiently as the post ones. So if you run a lot of air pressure, it's fine. It's kind of loud standing out here, but of course in the tractor cab, it doesn't bother you a bit.
Hey, Seth, we have a question. Why did you guys stay with 38-inch rows?
We stayed with 38-inch rows because, well, for quite a few reasons. We're ridge till, and we're with the feedlot. We started switching ground organic in 2001, and prior to that, we never raised beans. We only raised corn. We chop a lot of silage, a lot of high moisture corn, and we stack and bale about 1,100 acres of stalks a year. So we need all the stalks we can get. Then when we switched to organic, we started raising soybeans, of course, and we decided for the acres, it wasn't worth switching. Like in our operation on the ridges, especially, we catch on the go with trucks instead of with floater tires. So we don't have a grain cart. The trucks fit 38-inch rows. The stackers fit 38-inch rows. The spreaders fit. I mean, the whole operation's built around machinery that fits 38. So that's why we hadn't changed. And we finally figured out or decided, I mean, as we can raise our populations, I guess when the 60-inch corn trials proved it to me that, like, why on earth are we staying at a lower population on 38s if they can smash all this corn into a 60-inch and seem to get similar results? At 8 inches wider, I should be fine. So anyway, our yields have remained competitive, and instead of switching our entire system over, plus another thing now with the covers, it works nice with the interseeded covers too, because of a little bit more sunlight.
Awesome, Seth. Another question, does the seed drop right in front of the shovel or off to the side?
Right in front. It's right in front of the shovel.
Great. We also have a request for some photos of your implement when it's out of the field. So maybe if you could send those to me later, I can get them out.
We can do that.
That would be great. So any last thoughts before we wrap things up?
I would say if you got any interest in doing it, get a whirly seeder. Just spread the seed out and cultivate it in, especially for an organic guy where you're cultivating anyway. That's an extremely easy and cheap way to start. And if you're going to do one variety, do annual ryegrass. Don't do cereal rye. I tried for years thinking I could get cereal rye to grow out here, and I can't. I can in the fall, or if I seed it with a plane or seed it with a Hagee, but seeding it now, it dies out. Every once in a while, you'll get a little bit, but talk to. There's getting to be more places around. Prairie Creek Seed, they're a great outlet. Green Cover Seeds in Nebraska is a great outlet too. There's enough people and enough research on this now that you don't have to. 5 years ago, it felt like you were doing it alone, and now there's a lot of it that's been done, and a lot of people that really mastered it and are doing a great job. So you can learn from all the mistakes they made for free.
Excellent. Thanks, Seth. I'm going to switch over to our last slide here. And I wanted to share with everyone that there's been a current research report that was just published last week called The Economic and Soil Health Impact of Grazing Cover Crops. It can be found on Practical Farmers' website under on-farm research. And Seth Smith was a cooperator in this work. And what we found is that last year, Seth netted $86 profit per acre from grazing cover crops. So that's a pretty astounding number, and you could read all of those details in the research report on our website. I'd also like to thank Seth for being live in the field and letting us tune in to see that demo. And I want to thank you all for attending. Please remember that you can find a full list of our upcoming field days on our website. And also, please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation that is posted in the comment box. If you participate in the evaluation, you'll be entered to win a PFI water bottle, and more importantly, we'll receive your feedback and make these as good as possible. So again, thank you all for joining today. And Seth, thanks for taking the time out of your day to host us on your farm. And until next time, I hope you all stay healthy and enjoy the sunshine.